Okay, this is Mark Laughlin with Ambidextral Gunfighter, AmbGun.com. That's AmbGun.com. I'm going to do just a quick follow-up video to my review of the Walther PPQ M1 Classic, which of course I was quite fond of. I consider it the perfect ambidextral pistol. But I did mention in that video that despite that, it is not my primary carry gun. My primary carry is still the Kel-Tec PF9. Now, why is that? Why would I carry the PF9 when I have a quality pistol like the PPQ with full ambi controls, and yet I carry the PF9 without ambi controls? Well, it basically boils down to size and weight, and more specifically it would be the opportunity cost. For example, I can carry the Walther PPQ with 15 rounds, which weighs about a total of about 31.2 ounces with 15 rounds in it. With the PF9, I can carry the PF9 with a total of 3 magazines, 1 in and 2 out, for a total of 21 rounds instead of 15, so 6 more rounds, plus a quick clot, plus a knife, and still be at the same weight as the PPQ with just 15 rounds. So you have to consider your opportunity cost. Is the PPQ that much better with ambi controls? The PPQ, of course, is going to be more reliable than the PF9. Certainly easier to use to shoot than the PF9. How much size and weight are you willing to endure to carry one or the other? One with 15 rounds, one with 21, a quick clot, and a knife. Generally, I will go with the PF9. Now the other thing is as I noted in my PPQ review, seems like everyone raves about the trigger on the PPQ. And it's I guess okay, but I don't consider it rave worthy. In fact, I detect quite a bit of creep when working the trigger slowly. Now, as I noted in the PPQ review, that's not a big issue for me because I advocate convulsive grip, convulsive trigger control of the Rex Applegate methodology. The PF9 has a very long, a very heavy trigger. It's a double action trigger, but it's very smooth throughout its whole range. And then a nice clean break. Now, one advantage the PPQ does have over the PF9 is space within the trigger guard. You have space in the trigger guard on the PPQ for a large finger or even a gloved large finger. PF9, your space is much more limited. And not only that, the way the trigger moves across the bottom of the trigger guard, it is easy for it to pinch you. And so it can be a bit uncomfortable at times, particularly on releasing the trigger. Now, the big thing I really liked about the PPQ, of course, was the paddle mag release, the European style paddle mag release, because it's very ambidextrous, and with a pinch 4-finger thumb movement, you can release the magazine while maintaining a much better grip on the pistol. The PF9 has a simple mag release, push button mag release on the left side, which is easy to get to, but still it is a bit of a shift off of your hold for maintaining a firm grip on the pistol. Now, the one advantage, of course, the PPQ will have is it is a longer barrel. It is a 4-inch barrel versus 3.1 inches for the PF9. I suspect that probably translates into about maybe 75 to 100 feet per second less velocity out of the PF9. Now, looking at the size side of things, the PF9 is almost 1/2 inch thinner than the PPQ, so it's going to be easier to conceal. The height from the grip to the top of the slide, or top of the sight actually, is almost an inch shorter on the PF9 than the PPQ. Another thing is that the magazines for the PF9 are 20 bucks, whereas the magazines for the PPQ approach 40. So the PPQ mags are almost twice as much as the PF9 mags, but to be fair, the PPQ mags carry almost twice as much ammo. Now, one thing I wanted to look at was I disassembled the PF9 to see what is the possibility of making this pistol have a ambi slide release and a ambi paddle magazine release. Now, looking at the slide release first, I look at the cartridge inside the pistol. You see that the pivot arm for the slide release actually pivots right on the trigger pin. So it would be very difficult to cleanly put another slide release on the opposite side without it degrading the nice smooth trigger pull on the PF9. The other option I looked at was potentially where the mag detent is on the slide release, the hold open from the magazine. I could see that maybe you could extend that lower and then across the other side and then run a slide release based on that. Again though, you have the trigger bar kind of in the way to making anything work there. So I think it's, without some serious redesign, would be very difficult. Now to me the more important is, could we get rid of the push button mag and switch to a paddle mag release, because that would work just spectacularly on the PF9 because of the smaller grip. You could get a really terrific forefinger and thumb pinch on a paddle mag release on the PF9 to eject your magazines. And then that would of course also eliminate the button magazine release, so it'd be less likely to have an accidental ejection of your magazine if you hit something or if it hits your holster. And then also the paddle magazine release I think is critical, because as not only do I advocate the ambidextrous side of things, but for handguns I advocate that you be primarily left-handed in the deployment of your weapon. So that leaves your right hand free to manipulate objects, to fight, to use a knife, whatever, open doors, drive a car, drive a motorcycle. On a motorcycle, you have your throttle on your right hand, so you cannot drive a motorcycle with your left hand only. So you have to have your right hand free on a motorcycle to operate the throttle and the front brake. And you could do that and still operate a weapon with your left hand. And there are other situations that are similar. As far as shooting out of a car, it's easier to shoot out of a window with your left hand than to shoot out with your right hand as you're driving. So anyway, looking at the potential for a paddle magazine release, it looks like there is possibly enough space within the grip frame to allow a redesign that would accommodate a paddle mag release. And I mean, it's not something that a third party could do. It would require Kel-Tec to do the development to release that, but I think it would be very worthwhile. I think that would make it a near pure perfect ambidextrous pistol. I don't think we could get the slide release, but if we could get the ambidextrous paddle magazine released, or even an ambidextrous push button release, I think that would be a terrific benefit for the PF9. Okay, so in sum, as far as an ambidextrous pistol, it's not ideal. As far as size and weight for carry, it's as close to perfect as you can get in a 9mm, a single stack. It's very thin. It will actually fit in most back pockets, unlike almost any other 9mm. Only in 380s is usually you're typically consider a back pocket carry, but this will actually borderline work as a back pocket carry. It's terrific for an inside the waistband. It's very thin, so it doesn't distort your belt as much and print nearly as much. So highly recommend the PF9 for concealed carry. And then for your true ambidextrous pistol, you cannot beat the Walther PPQ M1 Classic. It's just bigger and heavier, but if they can ever make a version of this equal to the PF9 in size and weight, single stack, you would definitely have an ambidextrous winner with the Walther PPQ single stack AmbGun. It's Mark Laughlin with the Ambidextral Gunfighter. Thank you for watching the video. Be sure and check out our other videos. We have the series that called Caring for Self-Defense. We also have the Appleseed Prep series to help you prepare to attend a Project Appleseed Rifle Marksmanship Clinic, and we have forthcoming videos on the Ambidextral Gunfighter with respect to rifles and carbines, and specifically bullpup rifles, and more specifically the Desert Tech MDR. So be sure and check things out at www.ambgun.com. That's ambgun.com. Alpha Mike Bravo Gun.com. Thank you. Here we're going to do kind of a quick sort of a field strip and do a comparison in the size of the internals a bit between the Kel-Tec PF9 and the Walther PPQ M1 Classic. Now the Kel-Tec kind of surprises with the quality of materials inside the gun, and even though sometimes the outside doesn't look quite as elegant. Now here's a comparison of the slide. You can kind of see a little bit of the barrel, and then of course the recoil spring. The Kel-Tec is very narrow, very tight. The tolerances are very close. It's very lightweight, much lighter. So it's going to be harder to shoot, but easier to carry. And so if you're actually shooting, you endure a little bit of pain and delivering pain.